Head of Science Department in Sharjah American International School, one of the UNESCO associated schools. And today we are going to shed the light on the vision and mission of the National Commission for Education, Culture and Science. The vision of the National Commission for Education, Culture and Science is to build effective frameworks and initiatives that contribute to the realization of the UAE Vision 2021 and strengthen the cooperation relations with all partners locally, regionally and internationally. The mission. The UAE National Commission operates as a main platform for coordination between international organizations and local institutions with a view to activating global and regional program of organizations and benefiting from experiences and best practices of member states in the fields of education, culture, science, and communication. Establishment. Since its foundation when Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan set its first cornerstone, the UAE has recognized, thanks to its wise leader, that the key elements for achieving comprehensive development and prosperity are values, science, and culture, and that building a modern state model requires proper investment in human capital, which is the true wealth of the nation. Therefore, thanks to Zayed's wisdom, the UAE has been one of the leading countries in the fields of education, culture, and science. The National Commission, which is concerned with these fields, was formed in 1976 under the decree by Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan to coordinate the role and efforts of the UAE member of the United Nations Educational, Science and Culture Organization, UNESCO, as well as all relevant organizations, bodies, and institutions.
Goal 1. No poverty. Eliminating poverty in all its forms remains one of the greatest challenges facing humanity. While the number of people living in extreme poverty dropped by more than half between 1990 and 2015. Too many are still struggling for the most basic human needs. The SDGs are a bold commitment to finish what we started and end poverty in all forms and dimensions by 2030. This involves targeting the most vulnerable, increasing access to basic resources and services, and supporting communities affected by conflict and climate-related disasters.
Goal 2. Zero hunger. Rapid economic growth and increased agricultural productivity over the past 2 decades have seen the number of malnourished people drop by almost half. Many developing countries that used to suffer from famine and hunger can now meet the nutritional needs for the most vulnerable. Unfortunately, extreme hunger and malnutrition remains a huge barrier to development in many countries. The SDG's aim is to end all forms of hunger and malnutrition by 2030, making sure all people, especially children, have access to sufficient and nutritious food all year round. This involves promoting sustainable agricultural practices.
Goal 3. Good health and well-being. Since 1990, there has been an over 50% decline in preventable child deaths globally. Maternal mortality also fell by 45% worldwide. Despite this incredible progress, more than 6 million children still die before their 5th birthday every year. 16,000 children die each day from preventable diseases such as measles and TB. The aim of this goal is to end the epidemics of AIDS, TB, malaria, and other communicable diseases by 2030. The aim is to achieve universal health coverage and provide access to safe and affordable medicines and vaccines for all.
Goal 4. Quality education. The total enrollment rate in developing regions reached 91% in 2015, and the worldwide number of children out of school has dropped by almost half. There also has been a dramatic increase in literacy rates, and many more girls are in school than ever before. This goal ensures that all girls and boys complete free primary and secondary schooling by 2030. It also aims to provide equal access to affordable vocational training, to eliminate gender and wealth disparities, and to achieve universal access to a quality higher education.
Goal 5. Gender equality. Ending all forms of discrimination against women and girls is not only a basic human right, but it is also crucial to accelerating sustainable development. It has been proven time and again that empowering women and girls has a multiplier effect and helps drive up economic growth and development across the board. Affording women equal rights to economic resources
such as land and property, are vital targets to realizing this goal.
Goal 6. Clean water and sanitation. Water scarcity affects more than 40% of people around the world, an alarming figure that is projected to increase with the rise of global temperatures as a result of climate change. Although 2.1 billion people have gained access to improved water sanitation since 1990, decreasing supplies of safe drinking water is a major problem impacting every continent. Ensuring universal access to safe and affordable drinking water for all by 2030 requires investment and adequate organization, provide sanitation facilities, and encourage hygiene at every level.
Goal 7. Affordable and clean energy. Between 1990 and 2010, the number of people with access to electricity has increased by 1.7 billion. And as the global population continues to rise, so will the demand for cheap energy. A global economy reliant on fossil fuels and the increase of greenhouse gas emissions is creating drastic changes to our climate system. This is impacting every continent. Ensuring universal access to affordable electricity by 2030 means investing in clean energy sources such as solar, wind, and thermal. Adopting cost-effective standards for a wider range of technologies could also reduce the global electricity consumption by buildings and industry by 40%.
Goal 8. Decent work and economic growth. Over the past 25 years, the number of workers living in extreme poverty has declined dramatically despite the lasting impact of the 2008 economic crisis and global recession. In developing countries, the middle class now makes up more than 34% of total employment, a number that has almost tripled between 1991 and 2015. The SDG promotes sustained economic growth, higher levels of productivity, and technological innovation. Encouraging entrepreneurship and job creation are key to this, as are effective measures to eradicate forced labor, slavery, and human trafficking. With these targets in mind, the goal is to achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men by 2030.
Goal 9. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Investment in infrastructure and innovation are crucial drivers of economic growth and development. With over half the world population now living in cities, mass transport and renewable energy are becoming ever more important, as are the growth of new industries in information and communication technologies. More than 4 billion people still do not have access to the internet, and 90% are from the developing world. Bridging this digital divide is crucial to ensure equal access to information and knowledge, as well as foster innovation and entrepreneurship.
Goal 10. Reduced inequalities.
It is well documented that income inequality is on the rise, with the richest 10% earning up to the 40% of total global income. The poorest 10% earn only between 2% and 7% of total global income. In developing countries, inequality has increased by 11% if we take into account the growth of population.
Income inequality is a global problem that requires global solutions. This involves improving the regulation and monitoring of financial markets and institutions, encouraging development assistance and foreign direct investment to regions where the need is greatest. Facilitating the safe migration and mobility of people is also key to bridging the widening divide.
Goal 11. Sustainable cities and communities.
More than half of the world's population now live in urban areas. By 2050, the figure will have risen to 6.5 billion people, 2/3 of all humanity. Sustainable development cannot be achieved without significantly transforming the way we build and manage our urban spaces.
Extreme poverty is now concentrated in urban spaces, and national and city governments struggle to accommodate the rising population in these areas. Making cities safe and sustainable means ensuring access to safe and affordable housing and upgrading slum settlements. It also includes investments in public transport, creating green public spaces, and improving urban planning and management in a way that's both participatory and inclusive.
12. Responsible consumption and production.
Achieving economic growth and sustainable development requires that we urgently reduce our ecological footprint by changing the way we produce and consume goods and resources. Agriculture is the biggest user of water worldwide, and irrigation now claims close to 70% of all fresh water for human use.
A large share of the world population is still consuming far too little to even meet their basic needs. Halving the per capita of global food waste at the retailer and consumer levels is also important for creating more efficient production and supply chains. This can help with food security and shift us towards a more resource-efficient
Goal
economy.
13, climate action. There is no country in the world that is not experiencing firsthand the drastic effects of the climate change. Greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise and are now more than 50% higher than their 1990 level.
Further, global warming is causing long-lasting changes to our climate system, which threatens irreversible consequences if we do not take action now. Helping more vulnerable regions such as landlocked countries and island states adapt to climate change must go hand in hand with efforts to interrogate disaster risk measures international
Goal
standards.
14, life below water. Over 3 billion people depend on marine and coastal biodiversity for their livelihood. However, today we are seeing 30% of the world's fish stocks overexploited, reaching below the level at which they can produce sustainable yields. The SDGs aim to sustainably manage and protect marine and coastal ecosystems from pollution, as well as address the impacts of ocean acidification.
Goal 15, life on land. Plant life provides 80% of our human diet, and we rely on agriculture as an important economic resource and means of development. Forests account for 30% of Earth's surface, providing vital habitats for millions of species and important sources for clean air and water, as well as being crucial for battling climate change.
Today we are seeing unprecedented land degradation and the loss of arable land at 30-35 times the historical rate. Drought and desertification is also on the rise each year, amounting to the loss of 12 million hectares and affects poor communities globally. The SDGs aim to conserve and restore the use of terrestrial ecosystems such as forests, wetlands, drylands, and mountains by 2020.
Goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. We are living in a world that is increasingly divided. Some regions enjoy sustained levels of peace, security, and prosperity, while others fall into seemingly endless cycles of conflict and violence. This is by no means inevitable and must be addressed.
The SDGs aim to significantly reduce all forms of violence and work with governments and communities to find lasting solutions to conflict and insecurity.
Goal 17, partnerships for the goals.
A successful sustainable development agenda requires partnerships between governments, the private sector, and civil society. These inclusive partnerships built upon principles and values, a shared vision, and shared goals that place people and the planet at the center are needed at the global, regional, national, and local level.
The SDGs can only be realized with a strong commitment to global partnership and cooperation. While official development assistance from developed countries increased by 66% between 2000 and 2014, humanitarian crises brought on by conflict or natural disasters continue to demand more financial resources and aid. For more information about the 17 goals, please visit the official UNESCO website for sustainable development.